Whilst we're talking about strengthening the criminal justice system, I do need to touch on an issue which I think concerns many people involved in development assistance, particularly with the police, and that is whether the police themselves are viewed as a security agency or a justice agency. Now clearly context is all important here, and in some countries the police have always been a state security agency, and my guess is they always will be. But in other countries they've been very much seen as a justice provider, and my fear is a few things have altered the balance from being a justice provider to a security provider. And this is a contested argument, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial about this, but I think that two of the issues which have moved the police physically from being primarily justice providers to security providers are: the first has been the growing use of police in conflict and immediate post-conflict peacekeeping situations, when the police have been required, in the absence of the army or in addition to an army, to physically control and to physically secure areas, public areas, state borders. And that activity has gone on too long after the conflict or post-conflict situation has been in place. And what happens is then you securitize an already securitized police, and the emphasis becomes on them representing the state and securing chunks of geography, as opposed to providing services to the public. Now, I'm not saying the police should not and cannot be used in this role, they clearly have to be, but the time limit should be very tight, and whilst they're doing that work, they shouldn't be divorced from the rest of the criminal justice sector. And this is what happens all too often. Because they're securitized and they're seen to be state security providers, their relationship with the criminal justice system can become fractured, and then you get the delays in case processing and all the other problems that I've described. The second reason I think the police have become more securitized, and this is controversial, is the original emergence of the security sector reform agenda, which defined the security sector and all the players within it. Now, these documents are nearly 10 years old now, but it clearly showed the police as a security provider and not a justice provider. Now, let's be quite straightforward about this. All police agencies have both a security and a justice remit. But I think the justice remit should by far outweigh the security one. And in some cases that didn't happen. And I can think of a number of countries, which I'm not going to mention, where the police were moved away from their natural bedfellows, i.e. the rest of the criminal justice sector, and became lumped in with the hard security sector. So you would have coordination meetings happening on a regular basis with intelligence agencies, security agencies, the military, militia, and the police. And that was seen to be very good. And I absolutely accept that it's necessary in certain circumstances. But if you make that coordination too tight and binding, then the police become separated from the justice family. That concerns me, particularly in countries which are post-conflict, where the police may have been used to providing a state security function. It's where they were comfortable. If the international donor then comes in and reinforces that belief, it's not very helpful. And so I think we need to tread very carefully on this line. And I re-emphasize, the police in every country have a legitimate security function, but they also have a much greater connection to the justice institutions.